by saying pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody online joining us?
No.
Oh, so we can skip the etiquette. I can open it for privilege of the floor, but seeing as there's nobody here that besides us, I'll pass that. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 3rd? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The staff is still working on the form-based code. That's why we don't have anything on our agenda today to talk about that. If you recall, they're going to address some of the criteria that we reviewed at our last meeting. Thank you. And they're still working on some of that language, and I expect that we probably will be reviewing that next month. That being said, the next thing on our agenda to talk about was ADUs. And I've had a couple of conversations about this with individuals, and I thought we ought to open it up with a conversation of do we want ADUs in our community or don't we? And I'll just start it and open that conversation with that question, and I'd like people's feedback now. Anyone?
I thought Dan brought up a good point. You know, we're going to have.
With what?
If we are going to provide affordable housing.
Oh, okay.
And it's certainly something that's the community said.
Well, we could.
Okay, I give up.
Temporary,
What is it?
they're grinding. They're getting the glue off the floors upstairs.
Yeah, it might not start off. They might go to it.
Well. I want to tell them to stop, but I don't think their plan was for it to do anything else today, but maybe they can serve. They're. Think it would be exactly. We'll get to the back. Let me see if they. Trying to see where they are now, where they can go.
But this is under the whole side of the building, so no matter where they go.
Sure, I haven't really heard to hear you. I haven't really heard you. They're grinding down the carpet. Because the old carpet was glued right to the concrete, so. Taking up all the residue.
It's concrete.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, no.
Nope.
Well, you just heard those.
Have to move to a different space.
Safe.
Yeah, I think the kitchen's really gonna be the only.
So we have to have a camera somewhere, right? Like, so double check and sides. Yeah.
Unless they own the telephone pole.
They can't, well. I'll buy. I'll sign the else. Stuff here. There you go. I didn't. Yeah, there's another one.
Well, I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
There we go.
Figure this out.
John must have just told asked them if they could hold off for.
Okay, going back.
So Dave, I just raised the question of,
Sorry, I'm late.
that's okay, whether we wanted to allow ADUs in our community or not, or whether it was particular areas or just get people's general thought about that.
Well, if you're asking for my general thought,
Everybody's.
yeah,
I'd like to hear from everybody.
I say yes to that, and I don't think we should differentiate in anywhere where there's enough land. I was reading through the law, and one of the things it said was one per whatever, which I agree with. Because that kind of stops we're gonna set up short-term rentals. Or at least limit it to not short-term rentals.
Well, that's a potential concern, right?
Right,
Because whether
absolutely.
We're creating a opportunity for short-term rentals.
Right. I talked to Nadler about this, and he said you'd be very aware of that.
Yeah, he's raised that as a talking point.
Right.
You know, potential concern.
Right.
I agree, I think we should also, I agree with what Dave said. I had a question about the light area though, in the proposed. Some other things. Yeah, we're appropriate regulations and controls. Yeah, I think we have to.
Have to allow it.
Yeah.
Me too, I agree.
I mean, the spirit of it is you would be taking care of someone less firm than yourself. So that is obviously a good thing from my standpoint, or the child that's moving back to the area or something. But it sounds like a temporary thing, but when that space gets reverted back, that's when my concern is short-term rentals, but we'll get Mike to legislate against that or whatever, code enforce against that.
Well, one of the things we did talk about one time was that going ahead with something like this, but you can't build it and then use it as a short-term rental. That's not the intent of
Right.
this legislation, so.
But how do we legislate against that? That's the problem, right?
And that's the challenge that's been raised to me, you know. Yeah, that might be a fix for an immediate family or maybe even a distant family member for a period of time. That's usually a shorter period of time.
Right.
In a big picture, right?
Right.
And then the follow-up question is, well, what do you do when that property transfers hands or is no longer needed as an ADU?
Why can't we have a rule that says they can't be used in short-term rentals?
That's what I was thinking.
You would address that in your short-term rental
Yeah.
law.
Can we enforce that? I guess we wouldn't give them a permit, right? We wouldn't give them a permit for a short-term rental.
Yeah.
If the short-term rental law prohibited it, we couldn't just not do it. I mean, like, you have to address that in your short-term rental
Right,
law.
right. We can in here that it would,
They aren't ADUs. What about a long-term rental?
Yeah, a rental.
I mean, that's essentially,
We don't regulate those.
Huh?
We don't regulate
They could
those.
use it for.
but that's essentially what you'd be doing if you had an aging parent.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there could be some monetary exchange that, you know,
What if it's not a parent? What if it's you've got the unit, the grandma's staying there, grandma passes away, now the building's empty. You don't want to leave it empty, I mean, because they deteriorate faster.
right,
There's nobody living in them, so. Would it be permissible to rent it out, but on an annual basis for us?
something greater than
limit.
30 days,
Yeah,
something
but
greater
again,
than 30
the
days.
property owner is, the primary property owner is living.
Right,
It's somewhat of
right,
an enforcement issue. They're not gonna want some trashy tenant.
True,
It diminishes the value of the property in the neighborhood and plus all your neighbors can be this.
That's a good point, Tom, that we need to think about, because if a corporation buys one of the places on the lake and has enough room to put a short-term rental in, now they have two potential short-term rentals, essentially.
But that's already allowed.
I didn't hear you, sir.
That's already allowed. We have a couple Well, at least one that I know of, a couple of parcels on the lake where there's already more than one dwelling unit on it and they're being used as short-term rentals. So I mean, these are already things that are allowed.
But those are big, that's a big property. If it's the one I'm thinking of.
There's one that's.
Not really,
No,
not big for four. We'll put it that way.
Well, that's one thing that we've said
That
is
would be
that
an exception. We're not gonna have a raft of them.
right,
we said that the lot size needs to accommodate it, right?
Right.
And that all the rules and regulations need to be accommodated for.
If you precluded short-term rental in the accessory building, that would prevent the second building from being used as short-term rental.
Well, what's precluding the property owner from living in the ADU or short-term rental in the primary?
nothing.
So does that really defeat the purpose?
Well, that's.
I'm just throwing that out there.
No,
Right.
no.
Right.
I
Oh, what
can
if?
see that happening. You have a family and then suddenly you're back to one or two people and you've got a big house and little house. You move to the little house and your kid moves in with
In the
their
big house.
family. Yeah.
And what's wrong with that?
And there's nothing.
That might be a good thing.
Yeah, that's the best scenario that could happen right there, but.
I can
scenario-
see that happen.
Oh, I can too, right,
I think
absolutely.
that was one of Greg's issues.
Well, doesn't Victor in their short-term rental law have a owner has to live on site?
Yeah,
So
there's some towns
it'll
that
be-
do it that way.
that'd be in a sense the same thing. That wouldn't necessarily be bad unless that person living in the smaller house doesn't mind a lot of noise and partying, wants to participate.
And that's, I bring that up as devil's advocate, because what's the difference between short-term rental in the primary and short-term rental in the ADU? And does that make sense?
Yes,
If somebody builds or however we do this, the ADU, is that a category that's assigned to that structure? I mean, is it
It'd be a.
that's an ADU, not an STR? I mean,
Well, so
how,
underneath local zoning, it would still be an ADU. But it would have to be a single family dwelling.
Right.
oh, yeah, yeah,
So the STR would be like the cherry on top, if you want.
but you got a primary residence, you build an ADU.
Yeah.
Is that ADU, is it called an ADU? I mean, is that, so you say, well, it can't be an STR because it's an ADU.
so we would permit it that way, is that what you're
That's what I'm
saying?
asking.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a
Might-
single family home.
What's the acumen STR?
Short-term rental.
Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah,
It would be documented.
Money.
As an ADU.
right,
Underneath the zoning law determination.
Allowing it
That
to
would
be
accompany it.
constructed.
so you'd issue, that's how you would get a permit to build that, as an ADU.
Well, the permit itself is based on it being a single family home. Zoning allowing it
Yeah.
is based on it being an
Yeah.
accessory dwelling unit, a second single family home
Right.
in one parcel, but
The building permit would just say single family dwelling.
Correct.
The zoning law determination that would accompany it would identify it
It's an
as,
ADU, not an STR.
Your CO.
well, STR is completely different.
yeah.
No, I know, but the concern is that if the ADU becomes an short.
You have to look at these in two separate laws.
Well, that-
Let me ask
Whether-
you this question.
Just real quick. Whether or not you want to allow one of the two homes on a parcel where an ADU was constructed, whether you want to allow that to become a short-term rental will be, it needs to be addressed in the short-term rental law. Not on the front end, on the back end.
It's not automatic. Right?
Correct.
It's gotta get the permit.
And I was just gonna follow up and say, let's say a person has an ADU and they use it as an ADU for 10 years. And one of the parents deceased. Why not allow them to do a short term?
Right. You already allow it in any zoning district.
My only concern is that no parent or child ever occupies the place, and then it's a short-term rental from the get-go,
Well, let's address that.
right?
And let's say, is there something wrong with it?
Yeah, and we have short-term rental rules.
We have short-term
Talk
rental rules.
about
So if a-
access and septic and driveways and number of vehicles and so on. So we've addressed that. legislatively if it does turn into a short-term.
Meaning that if a person built an ADU and wanted to use it as a short-term rental and followed all the rules and
It has
regulations,
to get a new permit to do it.
then that would be acceptable. That's,
To me,
I think
no, but I could live with it.
It's kind of skirting the.
Yeah. I don't like that, but I mean, I don't,
And that's why I posed the question, are you okay with, I have a house with an ADU, I live in the ADU and I rent out my house. What's the difference in doing that than having a ADU as the STR?
Yeah,
There's,
I don't think
There's
for
no
us it
difference,
really,
right.
there's no,
For zoning, we-
there's no difference in there.
we
It's a
would, in zoning,
lose-lose
we wouldn't look
situation.
at it differently.
If you write a law that says you can't rent out an ADU, well, then I'm gonna get an STR for my house in the 2 weeks out of the year that I rent it out, with July. I'm gonna live in the STR.
Right,
and
right, no, right,
And rent out my main house. Either way, someone's gonna find a way around it. I know what your
right.
discussion point is there. And I agree with you, it's could be a problem. But I think our permitting with the short-term rentals and everything else, and the way you write your ADU law will prohibit that. Right, so the draft that we gave you is basically what staff has come up with as the bare minimum type of requirements. Utility connections and stuff like that. If you as a committee want to prohibit that, well, then you can say, you need 2 times the lot area that you would for a regular single family home. You can put stuff in there to prohibit the small lot with a house automatically getting an ADU. And then you have a short-term rental.
and I haven't read the language, forgive me because I couldn't print it, but did you write it such that the utilities have to be individually?
Yes.
Oh,
No, negative. We did it as a single service coming in.
A single service coming in?
So they share
Single
it.
meters.
Well, that's a concern because if a person wants to sell off that ADU at a later date or do something with it.
They
Could
can't
off,
sell it.
Subdivide.
Subdivide,
That's the only way
have
they
to
would
have a
be
big
able
enough
to.
Flat out.
they'd have to have a big enough lot.
Right,
And then they would have to have
Separate.
the
That would
same
be their
setback
problem.
requirements and the lot coverage, et cetera,
Correct.
right?
That would have, yeah,
But
if they
if
have,
they had, if they didn't have individual utilities, they couldn't do that, right?
they
Or
could
they'd have to
change
bring it
it.
in.
You could
They'd
bring
have
it in
to-
at that
they'd have to
time.
bring it in.
The reason why we wrote it like that was really Jim's water department, single meters going, splitting off, as opposed to multiple meters on a property. How do you build that? How do you set that
Yeah.
up? Same with sewer, gas, electric, not our concern, but. there.
well, septic, I mean,
It
sewers,
creates a
concern,
nice
if it's
barrier
septic, I mean, would
to
we,
the
that
subdivision
would have to be
or
a
to
septic,
the rental.
a separate
Two
septic
different-
system, in my mind. So you're gonna dump all
Say
that
Say
into,
that again, Dave, because I.
if you have a septic system.
It just has to
and
be
you-
big enough.
Right, but, I mean, if they're sized correctly initially.
They
and how
could get a
does-
permit if it wasn't.
Yeah, and the reason why it would be a single septic is again, tracking. Right, so we require septic inspections, we require all of that. How do you go through and track inspections on 2 separate systems on 1 lot? From a staff perspective, it's a nightmare. I couldn't do it. And then you have the issues of sizing adequately, improper hookups.
So how do you say, I got a house now?
Yeah.
And my septic system is 20 years old.
Yep.
I'm gonna build an ADU on that with 2 bedrooms in it.
Yep.
Just dump that into this 20-year-old septic.
You would have to have an engineer come back and redesign the system to meet the current standards. We already have that in our septic law. If you increase bedrooms, square footage by more than 25% and something else, there's one other threshold, then you have to have the system redesigned to meet the current.
I'm okay with that, as long as we're resizing the
Yeah.
system. I mean,
Yeah,
Well, I
I'm very
mean,
concerned about that, yeah.
no, it wouldn't even be
Yeah,
a
no.
permit if it didn't have an adequate septic system to accommodate the new property.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on out there. I mean, we.
There's a lot of stuff we're
that-
careful with.
Right, no, I'm not saying.
We're
but-
required to
but
look at
no,
that.
I'm not arguing with that, but I'm just saying that
and
septic is a very concern
Yeah,
for
and-
water quality.
Yes,
I
of
mean,
course.
one good example is right now we have an STR. It was built with 3 bedrooms. At some point, they now have 7. Well, their septic was never redesigned, so now they need to go back to an engineer to prove, no, this has the proper capacity to meet today's standards.
Or
Sorry, you did an
Fix their
unpermitted
septic.
addition, but that's the risk that you take doing something.
Mhm.
But we already have those taken care of in other sections. That's the big.
This proposed,
local has
Yep.
in it. That the lot area has to be twice the required minimum lot area.
So,
Was that put in?
It's language from,
case
Yeah.
somebody
so I see,
subdivides?
so there was one, the tracking one, which John has with the highlighted areas. When I drafted this up, I highlighted certain sections that I believe were the board and committee's discretion. That staff, no offense, I don't want a part of. And so that was kind of a recommendation from what I had seen from other municipalities, but 100% is up to the board and committee's discretion as to lot areas, minimum separations, height and size and what zoning districts.
Well, that comment itself would address the issue of subdividing down the road.
Yep.
But what to prevent somebody from coming in and buying that 2 units on one lot and using them both as SDR? Would they get the SDR for both units?
If they apply for it, but yeah.
under our
they
current
make it
short-term
all-
rental
Yep.
law, yes.
Stuff.
Would they even need to have two, or is it one? It's on the same property.
I say they need one for each person if they're
I'd say
renting
so
them out
too.
For
separately.
each person.
Or I'm not
But it's
personal,
not-
sorry. If they're renting out this unit to someone other than that at 2 different times, that's 2 separate short-term rental
Agree,
permits.
I agree with you.
According to our office.
Right.
I know sometimes you think about it a little different,
Yeah.
Tom, you had something else?
but we have both examples happening already.
But that's quite, you want multiple STRs and.
We already have a few.
Let me throw this on the table just to get people's response. What if somebody wanted to build more than one ADU?
And the same lot.
Well, this law says you can't do that. What, this one that's proposed here.
Yeah, and I'm
Right.
not addressing this,
Yeah.
I just want to get everybody's temperature on.
I would not, I would, personally, I would not, I would not
They know.
before that. Yeah, I would not before that.
Cause then that's Bristol Village,
Because then what?
that's like Bristol.
You get into a campsite now.
Big campsite, you know,
Right.
20 units in
Yeah.
there. You know, even if you have enough land, I mean, that's different category of use. I would say.
Everybody have the same opinion on that?
You look at-
So we're limiting it to 1.
And Murphy, your procedures are that we go straight to building permit. If somebody wanted to put an ADU on their property, they come to you,
Yeah.
come to code, so it wouldn't go through a site plan.
No, not currently as written for this one.
Okay, and
Now, we would still obviously need a zoning law determination and stuff that
Well,
would.
we would have to change our
variances
code
if
because
anything
it's still a
is-
single family home. And all single family homes are required to go to planning board to obtain site plan approval before a building permit. So yes,
Yes, it would.
yes, they would have to unless we change our law.
So they would go to the planning board.
They have to unless you change. the
No,
law.
and I'd like him to go to the planning board. I would, Chuck, is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it'll pick up, it's a belts and suspenders thing, I mean, you just
Yeah.
pick up on other things.
Do we have many people that apply for an ADU? Have we had any that have come in and asked for us?
So actually, my office has seen 2 just this year, since January 1. They're no longer ADUs, they're changing to a 2-family dwelling. One did, the other one went to a single family dwelling unit that has just 2 kitchens and 4 bathrooms. I mean, you can work with the structure. Because we have the 750 square foot threshold, the one that ended up going to a 2-family, they said, we don't want that, we want 1,000 or 1,000 or however it was split up. And so they just switched from an ADU or an accessory apartment to a 2-family dwelling, which is a lot of money.
Do you remember what zoning district they were in?
Foster Road.
Yeah, we have some zoning districts that allow it and some that
Yeah,
don't.
I'd have to look it up. On my project.
It's all within one building.
It's one building, yeah, you would never know it's a 2-family dwelling, looking at the outside.
So if someone wanted to put up an accessory dwelling unit on an AR2 lot, there'd have to be at least 2 acres of available land for them to build on, right?
I think the way this is written, they would have to have a 4-acre lot,
They'd have to have a 4-acre lot.
the way the
Right,
draft
and
is
that's-
right now.
That's what the discretion is for the committee of what do you want in that area.
Right, and that's why I'm throwing it out there, just
Yeah.
kind of to get everybody's temperature on
Yep.
that, just to.
Cause I would agree that, or I would say 2 acres, that's a lot, you could put an ADU on that. But when you're talking RLD with 12,000 or 10,000 square foot lots, you want a little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
So are you saying 4 acres because that would be 2 acres and it needs to be according to this law twice that?
Yeah, because AR2 requires your lots to be 2 acres.
2
or
acres, so it'd
more.
be twice
We
that.
do have lots that are existing in all of our zoning districts that don't meet the minimum because the lots have been there longer than the zoning district has. So for those people, they would never be able to have an ADU if we went this way unless they got some sort of a variance, I guess, but.
Would there be a difference? If the ADU is detached rather than part of the.
We already allow attached ADUs.
Well, I know what I'm saying, the example you gave was within the one house, that's an ADU. Being built that way, and kitchen, whatever.
Well,
Would they have to have double the area because they're not gonna subdivide it because it's all within one structure?
That's for the boards.
right, you need to,
I mean, you'd have two different situations.
Let me ask Terry's
Yes.
question in just a slightly different way. If someone wanted to build an ADU in the RLD, they'd have to meet the minimum lot size and building coverage requirements, right? That's what we're saying.
a detached ADU in the RLD, the way the draft is written right now, they would have to have twice the minimum lot size that the RLD requires.
Which is saying the same thing, I think in essence is saying that you gotta have enough lot coverage to meet the one building RLD requirements.
No, you'd have to have twice that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if you had 2 ADUs on a RLD lot, you'd have to have twice the lot size.
Yeah, your minimum would be double whatever is the
Right,
minimum for a single family.
What
Yeah,
if it's all within the same building?
I don't even
Then
think we
they'd
allow
have to-
attached.
Then they'd have to,
ADUs
if
in
the RLD,
RLD.
if it's not detached and it is attached, in my opinion, it still
It's on
has
the
to meet
schedule.
the minimum lot size and building coverage requirements of the RLD.
Oh, yeah,
But
it doesn't need to be double that size.
right, that's, see what Terry's saying,
I
if
would
it's
say, my own personal opinion would be no, because it's attached, it's the same
all the same
structure.
building,
Oh,
right?
attached, we don't.
We don't
it's-
double it.
No.
Right.
No,
That
but
makes
see,
sense.
that's the
That
other thing
makes sense.
too,
That
is you
makes
need to think about, we already have an accessory dwelling unit allowance in our code. We don't really spell it out in a big chapter of code, but single family dwelling with accessory apartment is a permitted use in many of our zoning districts. Not, yeah, I didn't think so.
But we move things around.
But so those don't have, they do have a minimum lot requirement, but for the most part, it's the same as
Same.
the single family home without an accessory apartment. Just looking at it. Yeah, it doesn't appear that we've made, that it's different. So
Reasonable.
that's attached is much different than detached as far as we look at it.
I think as everyone looks at it, it just looks like one building.
But I mean, but it's a separate dwelling unit and like people can get a permit to operate a short-term rental out of the accessory apartment. They can rent it long-term to someone. They can have their sister move in. Like, we don't have rules for who lives there.
Right, as long as it's attached.
But it's attached, but it's completely separate.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's the same structure.
Yeah.
Same structure, but when we look at how it's separated and built, it's a dwelling unit in and of itself. It just happens to be attached to another house.
Does it make any difference whether one of the occupants is the owner?
Right now, we don't regulate that.
Okay, so you could have two rentals in
Yes.
there.
Yes,
Okay.
We don't check that.
I mean, if you had Airbnb, they rent out by the room. You know, so if you were a short-term rental, whatever, we would,
Our short-term rental law doesn't address that. Lately, we've been making them go through the special use permit for a tourist home and asking for a waiver from the minimum 3 rooms if they're renting 1 bedroom. Because our short-term rental law doesn't cover single bedroom rentals. It's only full dwelling
Mhm.
rentals. Because the way our code defines a short-term rental is a dwelling
well,
unit.
do them.
So in essence, I think what we've summarized is that in order for a person to have a detached ADU, they'd have to have the minimum lot sizes to be able to accommodate for whatever zoning district that we're talking about, right? So if it's an AR1, they're gonna have 2 acres of land. It's an
4 acres of
AR2.
land, right?
No,
It's an
AR1 is
AR1.
one.
AR2 would have to have 4 acres of land. And the RLD would have to have
Twice.
twice the lot, twice the lot size, right?
Well, RLD minimum
So
is,
the 3 lot
Defined.
sizes.
that's only for pre-existing non-conforming lots that were in existence at that size before the RLD law said how big they have to be.
Is everybody
20,000
comfortable
square
with that?
foot is
Kinda
the
just in
RLD.
Summary.
I am.
I am.
John, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Doing this goes with the comprehensive plan, like I explained in that email, that of providing the house, because my question was gonna be. Because I haven't been here long enough to know, since the comprehensive plan was developed, where can we point to that has showed the support for residential growth of diverse housing that makes Canandaigua livable for all ages, abilities, family sizes, and income levels? And I don't know that, so that's why I'm just wondering, because so far, the 2 things that I've been here for that there's, been some concerns with each of them. Obviously, it looks like this one you guys are good with going with, so I think it fits well into the comprehensive plan for doing that. So I just wanted to, I don't know, has there been any other things that have occurred, changes in zone and all that to accommodate that part of the comprehensive plan? Separate from this.
Yeah, incentive zoning for uptown landing. That's another
Yeah,
downside of the lot
Yeah.
size there.
Yeah.
So,
except the cost of those homes that they're
well,
gonna be.
I'm just talking,
Yeah,
Jen and I had to listen to a MRB webinar.
it was
Thursday night.
good.
It was very good. It talked about the comprehensive plan and what derives from the comprehensive zoning has to tie into comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
And it was a good presentation. Eric Cooper did it. I mean, Eric used to work here.
Right.
And then we specifically say steps that we would take are to review town code, remove restrictions to affordable, accessible, and age-friendly housing. Identify options to reduce the cost of housing and to accommodate affordable housing. And then review the efficacy of existing dimensional standards of zoning districts.
That all sounds
That's-
good about, we would do X to make building less expensive, but we can't do that.
Correct,
We have-
well, that's why I think
Yeah,
options
yeah,
like
we can do
this
that.
though still fall
But
within.
we're removing zoning barriers.
Some barriers, I
Yeah.
agree, like uptown landing.
Like,
Same
so we
thing.
can check that off.
What we're doing, we,
You know,
And you can. Not to go against John Allen, but you can.
and what?
You can directly correlate building costs to what you do.
Absolutely.
Oh, right, you can. It's great what you do with Uptown. But the reason why the houses are gonna be so expensive is because the amenities that they had to provide as well as the infrastructure. Now, if you drop a zoning district, say you're R 30,000 square feet lots minimum, you drop that down to 10,000 square foot lots. I can buy one of those 10,000 square foot lots, build that home for probably, John, correct me if I'm wrong, $240,000. It's kind of your base cost nowadays for a stick built home.
How
1,000
big?
Square feet,
How many?
1,000 square feet,
1,000 square feet?
Yep.
Cheapest you can get it,
about 250.
250.
So I could go through, right, a tenth of an acre, 10,000 square feet, about a quarter of an acre. That dropped my building cost down significantly.
Well, what you're doing is you're dropping the infrastructure cost per unit, which can dramatically impact the overall cost of the.
Well, you're increasing density,
Right, you're increasing density.
but you still gotta have that infrastructure.
Right.
You gotta pay for that. Somebody's gotta pay for it.
Correct, but if say I'm already in an area that's in a sewer district, I'm in the water. Instead of having a 1 acre lot minimum, if I could go 10,000 square foot. There you go. You solve your housing costs.
But in
From a
the
zoning perspective.
example we're talking about uptown landing, you don't have all that. You're gonna be creating new roads. Somebody's gotta pay for that infrastructure. That's why those houses are 300 grand and up.
Well. Yes, but you also have to pay for the amenities they had to give to get the increased density and everything else.
What if you put
That's not that much.
manufactured homes on those lots?
800,000 divided by 600
Yeah,
units.
it'd be cheaper.
I don't think we'd be talking about upzone landing unless we provided those incentives.
I don't know why-
They would be
I don't know why we need
there.
to say this
Oh, but
next
we did
two-story
address
colonial.
zoning
lots.
barriers.
Right, right, I agree.
And in that context of following our comprehensive plan, we're doing that. And this is another example.
I think to Mike's point, you know, our form-based code zoning district requires in the subsection that allows single-family homes, it requires that the lots be a minimum of 100 by 100 feet. So form-based code didn't require them to be that big. Cook Properties could have proposed something potentially without requesting incentive zoning in the first place. But their plan included more dense lots, and that's what they wanted. But I mean, that's something to consider.
And one of the big ones is East Rochester in a pilot there. 10,000 square foot lots, it's a 1,400 square foot home, carbon free, no gas, all electric. The home sold with the lot, $290,000. Brand new home.
Sounds like a good deal.
They used ICFs. I know John's got familiarity with those. They're Lincoln logs.
Right.
I can put those up.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully they get you like.
lot size has a big impact on housing costs.
Oh, sure.
That's the biggest thing.
Lot size is the biggest issue. Well, that and whether you bring utilities
Correct.
as a town or whether the developer has to bring the utilities.
Correct.
I mean, those are the two biggest determinators of development, because the cost of building is the cost of building, whether you build it on a 10,000 square foot lot or 20,000 square foot lot. Cost is still the same. But let's get back to this. It sounds like,
So,
go ahead, Sarah.
so on that note, in the RLD, or not, sorry, not RLD, RR3, which is our down in the southern western portion of the town, the minimum lot size is 3 acres. Most of these are on, you know, in the woods mostly. Do you want it to be true that someone couldn't put an ADU on their lot unless they had at least 6 acres? Because that's what this would do. In the talk about increased affordability and allowing people to have ADUs. I mean, certainly we do have a lot of 6 acre parcels down there, but we have a lot of 3 and 4 acre parcels.
Can people ask for an exemption to that?
No, you'd have to get a variance.
You'd have to get what?
A variance, I think,
So,
would be
yeah.
how we do
So
it.
what would a variance cost?
It's the application and a risk that you get denied.
You know, the part that I kind of like about that is that if there's going to be a future subdivision of that property, then it would still have to conform to the 3 acre lot minimum.
Yeah, so say someone put in 2 and it wasn't twice the size, if they wanted to subdivide, they'd have to get a variance in order to have a lot that doesn't meet the minimum size.
Yes.
Which people do. Request that from time to time,
Yeah, the only hurdles with that would be setbacks.
yeah.
Setback actually would probably be the only one.
I kind of like the idea though, and this is only my opinion, so you know, I defer to everybody else, but I kind of like the idea conceptually about meeting the minimum lot size, regardless of where it is, whether it's in the RLD, the RR3, the AR2. I kind of like that idea that you got to have double the land size in order to make it work.
It eliminates potential for having it not be right at the end. If the next owner says, "Can we divide this out?" It's already set up to be minimal.
That's
I mean,
exactly my thought.
That's what I kind of agree with that as well, because.
I think that
You
kind of sets it up, that
Subdivide.
that's what's
Right,
going to
exactly,
happen. then.
without any,
Hassle.
right, we're not trying to go
Sets it
outside
of
of what we
That's more
have.
likely to happen.
It's not likely to happen.
I think that sets it up so that it's way more likely than that someone will then just go ahead and subdivide it instead of
But do we
the
care?
intent
No.
of the.
Do we care?
ADU.
Why would we care? It's 2 houses on the minimum lot size. Have at it.
If it's AR2 and they have 4 acres, they could split off 2 now.
They're gonna have to put another septic
So-
system in.
You know, and relative to the RLD, and I'm going to use my situation as an example. The RLD part of my property is pretty well built out, and I couldn't put a second ADU on it anyways, but there is a point on my property where it becomes SCR. So if I was going to put a second house on it, which I don't expect to do in the near future, but if I was going to put a second house on it, I'd have to be up in the SCR anyways. And I would think that most of the properties on the lake probably are set up like that. If they have any acreage or any land at all. There'd be very few where I think you could go put a second accessory dwelling unit and still meet the lot size requirements.
And also the siting requirements behind, there's all kinds of setbacks set into this
Right.
law already.
Exactly.
So I agree with you. I don't think you'd see anything in, that you wouldn't see anything.
You might have one or two, a couple, but you're not
Exceptions,
gonna
right.
see
The,
a lot of them.
Right.
the big point with this draft was to alleviate the issues that I foresaw with detached garages. You already have a detached garage, well, how do we stop people from turning those into ADUs? Or the illegal ones that we already have from becoming allowed. And that was the easiest way to go through and do it.
Well, and if that was the case. And they had a garage that was detached and they wanted to make it an ADU. They'd have to meet the double the lot size, right?
Yeah. But I can tell you, just, we've got a lot on like Sandy Beach and stuff, and that's what I was kind of focusing on when I put that in there as an option.
If they double the lot size on Sandy Beach, would they meet the criteria for ADU?
RLD,
So,
But a lot of them are already
But there
pre-existing
are
non-conforming, so.
already non-compliant lots.
pardon me?
They're already non-compliant.
Yeah,
Right.
so they're not, their chances of that happening are
Minimal.
Pretty close to zero.
non-existent.
So it sounds like we're all in agreement. And it sounds like we're meeting some of the thoughts and ideas that you were coming up with, John,
And our comprehensive plan.
in our
That's-
comprehensive
yeah.
plan. So with that in mind, maybe we should go through the language kind of just to see if it is in conformance with what we've just said.
I got a what if
Go ahead.
that maybe I'd put out front that we can consider as we
Yeah,
get through.
yeah, go ahead.
Person comes in, applies for an ADU and says right up front, I want to use it for a short-term rental. That's not a problem, okay.
currently,
Because
it's
that'll
allowed.
happen. People are gonna build these things.
Yeah, they are.
With the intent,
Absolutely.
not,
Right.
not worried about grandma and grandpa,
Right. Yep.
not worried about the kids. They're doing it for a business, so.
But if you have the double.
Double the lot size is gonna
long as they
eliminate
have the
some of the
double lot
stuff,
size.
right?
I will just mention too, that actually is still in conformity with the comprehensive plan because there is the tourism part of our plan with providing lodging for tourists.
Okay,
So
just wanted to bring that up.
I think that's
Because
a good point,
I
but I
can see
think
it,
that's
I
kind
can
of
see it happening.
making
it's
it more
going to
difficult
happen.
by the lot size, right?
At that point, I would recommend to the board to look into occupancy tax.
I don't know. why
that's,
we-
I don't know why we would do that now.
that's likely gonna end up being a statewide thing
Oh, yeah.
very soon.
The state gave you the tool in the last budget adoption, so it's in there.
Get enough of them.
So when I was looking at this, I looked at
I think.
the word subordinate in the first paragraph. What does that mean? Subordinate to the primary residence.
The intent. Is that what you're looking at?
I'm looking at the ADU law that went out,
Yes, the intent and purpose.
yes, right,
That
the word
intent-
subordinate.
Yes, that intent was just written for our previous discussions as to what I thought the committee was trying to drive home with this law.
Mhm.
And so that it's subordinate in the sense of your primary residence is still the main.
Yeah.
Structure on the property, it's subordinate. Nothing as far as any other.
Okay,
But biggest thing is diverse housing needs for people living in town of Camaragua. This allows for a larger housing stock.
So BA is the interpretation of that in AR2, we gotta have 4 acres, AR1, we gotta have 1 acre, or 2, excuse me, I'm sorry.
E1A, yep.
That's how everybody interprets that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Back up before that.
I think it would need to be clarified based on the minimum for a single family home, because zoning districts have minimum lot area requirements for different uses.
Yeah, so we could add that word, right, for a single family home? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah, so can you take notes on as we go through this, Sarah?
John, just to backtrack a little bit,
Yep.
do we want this in all zoning districts? That was one of the items that I left on the committee.
I think Terry was just gonna address it. Go ahead.
That's the question. It's a blank here on.
Yeah, me too,
I
because
think we
But you
put-
don't need to-
put in all.
All?
right now, you cannot have an accessory dwelling unit as an attached accessory apartment in at least the RLD. And I'm sorry that I don't know if that's true for all the other residential zoning districts, but I know at least that it's not allowed. So if you allowed a detached accessory dwelling unit in the RLD, would you not also want to allow an attached accessory dwelling unit? Right now, you don't allow it.
Why wouldn't we allow that?
You know, I would
It's
say-
just not allowed. I'm
No, no,
asking,
right,
I'm sorry, yeah,
A fair
Right.
number exist already.
Right,
probably.
but I think we're in agreement, we would allow that.
Around it.
I think so.
I think so too.
I don't see any reason.
Right.
The problem is how can my office say it's an accessory apartment or just a house with 2 kitchens and 4 bathrooms?
Well, you know,
Is it,
and
yeah,
Yeah, we
is
have
it a
a lot.
separate dwelling unit or is it?
that one at the base
No.
of.
So Terry, you can
Curtis on the
modify that
Westlake
language.
Road.
So-
For-
Yeah, we're gonna have to update the zoning
Both of those
schedule after this,
rentals had 5 vehicles in front of them.
or at the same time.
Okay, any other comments or thoughts as we work down through here?
On B, and
Yeah,
minimum separation of 10 feet, isn't that regulated by the construction, whether it's frame or masonry, non-combustible or so on? Isn't there a fire code about fire separation for
Nope,
occupied buildings?
not for a single family residential lot with the buildings on the same lot. You can have the buildings 2 feet from each other.
So,
so I think, however, you've got a good point there, Tom.
right there,
I almost think that the separation ought to be double, just in case that there is a subdivision later on.
I think we ran into this.
So
on-
what's the
on,
setback from the lot line now, 10 feet?
Whatever it is, it should be double.
Davidson.
Different for
not
every
Davidson
zoning.
Landing,
So just
what's the one by the country club?
Can't.
Where
Sometimes it's
we're worried
60
about
feet, sometimes it's
so
25,
close
sometimes it's.
and-
Let's have a
Sometimes it's
conversation,
12.
please.
So if it's different for all the districts now, I think we have to adhere to that, whatever that district separation is for two structures.
I think you gotta double it.
Right. Oh, we don't, do we have to double it, or if it's 60 feet from the lot line in whatever
Right.
district it is, leave it at 60 feet, but I don't think we can put 10 feet in here,
So-
and
Well, no, let me just share my interpretation. If the separation now is 10 feet, we gotta be 10 feet from the lot. Maybe it doesn't work. I was thinking if you subdivide,
Yeah,
you still gotta be 10 foot away, but I think you're still.
so
Still 10 feet
this
away,
is,
yeah, I think
this
that's-
is from ADU to the primary dwelling or principal structure. If you wanted to go by your setback
Oh,
and
right,
setting up
right,
for
right.
subdivision, you could be talking 120 feet
So
distances.
so then I would say double it.
Well, but
Could be
that's where
more
I
than
think you
double.
get away from your intent of it being subordinate. Because at that point, you would just have 2 completely independent structures. You see what I'm saying?
mhm.
Yeah, but I kind of, you know, if the person is to subdivide later on, you don't want that structure 60 foot from the lot line.
So the other side of this would be, if you do have your mother in a house, do you want her 120 feet away? Where she's gotta walk, you know, where they have to go back and forth, or do you want them 10 feet away? I mean, that's, if we're setting it up for that,
However, the next person that buys the house, do they want to be 60 foot away from the neighbor or 100 or 30 foot away from the neighbor?
But that's why I think it's just the minimum. Right? The reason why I put a minimum in there is because fire code and
Mhm.
residential code don't have minimum setbacks on your own lot. And so this way, at least we're giving some separation.
Yeah, I
distance.
think we gotta let whoever plans on doing this, make their own determination for their future. What if they plan on subdividing,
Good point.
then maybe they should be thinking about those, not necessarily
Right.
us.
okay,
They can still set themselves up for a
Right.
subdivision,
Yeah, but let that be up to them.
Right.
Exactly.
playing devil's advocate, if we have 2 lots and I'm thinking Fallbrook, where we have these beautiful frame dwellings too damn close to one another.
Mega mansions.
There, the fire safety issue.
Mhm.
If we're gonna have 2 occupied frame dwellings, is it appropriate that they're only 10 feet apart?
So you're throwing in about 3 different
Yeah,
issues.
I know, but
So this is for, think of sheds. right? The reason why the code is set up like this is so that your shed on your property can be right next to your house.
Fine.
Totally
But it's
fine,
not occupied.
doesn't matter.
It could burn.
I can't make a code for that.
Still could catch on fire, I guess.
Because what it's saying is that the code for residential really inhibits the risk from neighbor to neighbor. Okay, if your house catches on fire because of your shed, I don't care. I'm gonna make sure that your neighbor's house though doesn't catch on fire from your house.
Right.
That's what it's saying.
But should we be concerned about life safety for the person that's in the ADU that's 10 feet away?
How?
To make it further, I don't know. What is the state code for?
There
for
is no-
Two,
there
for
is no
two
state
frame
code.
dwellings?
There is
Didn't we run into?
Yeah,
this
but
on-
I think it was only like 5 feet.
Yeah,
That's-
I
I
mean,
mean,
somewhere,
you couldn't even put
If
a
you're
ladder.
within
Yeah.
5 feet, you gotta have a 1 hour rated
Yeah.
fire. That's the only thing.
That was the problem
I'd be hard
I think
set
10,
to find a fire that could jump 10 feet and cause an issue.
take a
very
look at
bad.
California.
Well, that's a wildfire. That's different.
When you have a wind,
What if we doubled this and said 20 feet? Does that address our concerns?
it's getting grandma and grandpa pretty further away from the house.
That's the tough part.
I mean, if the
20 feet
intent is that, I think. If you have enough room to separate them out and that's your goal long-term and you're thinking that, go ahead and do it, but I mean, I don't want, I would hate to eliminate the fact of putting them close enough so that. Grandma's not slipping on the ice, and getting from place to place.
So we want to leave it at 10
10
foot
feet,
then?
I say 10 feet.
Okay.
I'm good with 10 feet.
And next person.
yeah, I brought it up because I thought that there was a code. There apparently is not.
I hear your fire concern.
I do
Share
too.
those,
It's just,
yeah.
we can't do anything larger than code as far as building construction wise. The only way we can do is zoning. And this would fall underneath zoning. As far as this.
That next person to buy the, after grandma goes into the home. Then. If the owner wants to subdivide it. And it's only, you draw that line down between.
Something they're gonna have to consider.
From the lot line,
Yeah,
But again,
that's
that's,
gonna be allowed unless they get a variance.
exactly.
That's there.
but again, that's up to, if they look at that and like, I wanna buy this house so I can subdivide, and then they should be the one really researching whether they're gonna be able to do that or not. If they buy it and then are like, then all upset that they can't subdivide, that seems to be
Their
one of their problems.
Especially if you had enough room.
Yeah, cause
You
you
know.
can't, we can't account for every
Right.
scenario,
Right, because
possible.
what's the intent of creating
Well,
this law?
that's-
To make it so that people can build a second home and then have two separate lots, or to make it so people can build a second home?
Build a second home,
That's
in my mind.
Yeah.
An accessory dwelling.
I'd say it's probably 50-50. People are gonna do this just to get that second property.
The unintended consequence is gonna be that.
I
But they could
think,
go buy a 4 acre lot in the R2, subdivide it, and build 2 homes.
so, and I think that
Just saying,
there's underneath subsection 4. Is where I think you're gonna deter that. by having-
Yeah.
Correct. If you already have the lot area and you really wanna build 2 homes and then
Right.
subdivide it,
Do it.
you're gonna subdivide it first so that you can have 3,000 square foot homes.
Yeah, but if that corporation divides it, it's that next owner, 2 owners down the.
But you can't plan for that. You
Yeah, I
don't
know.
know what
Yeah,
people
well-
want.
Why do we spend all this time going through these things if we don't try to cover all bases?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we do? I mean, that's why I've been here for an hour now.
Only 54
Right,
minutes.
so
I just don't want to put too many restrictions on people.
We're down to C, sorry.
Anybody have any comments from,
Height was a big one for me. As far as, did you wanna set a maximum height, or did you just wanna leave it with respect to?
Why do you
these
even have to
ordinances?
say it if it's in the code already, but?
what's it, yeah, whatever.
Because we
the-
do have different height restrictions for accessory structures. So
Got it.
it's, do
Thank
you
you.
wanna leave it as they meet the height requirements
Yes.
for a structure or for the primary home?
Primary home.
Oh,
I think it just
yeah.
fits architecturally,
Yeah.
aesthetically, it just fits better, right?
Well, and I thought this, we were talking about districts, so different districts have different height requirements. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I wanna maintain that for sure.
So leaving it the way it's written with that one, just the one section crossed out, will do that.
Yeah. And I bring that up because like RLD is 16 feet, but your home can be 25 feet.
Right.
So you're saying you'd be fine with 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's go down to size. You got a couple of blanks there. Do we care what size the accessory dwelling or the dwelling unit is?
I know some of the examples when we first started talking about this, I think you, Bloomfield in place of 40% of the principal structure was what they used in their code. Not saying that's what we should, but I'm saying that's what they did.
So would our current lot coverage cover them?
Yeah.
So why do we care?
Because if you're gonna have 4-acre lots with these, do you want to have 2 3,000 square foot homes? That was just the only thing,
Right,
because
right,
right
no,
now it is currently limited to 15% and 750 square feet or something.
For the attached.
Yeah.
Attached accessory apartments are no more than 50% of the square footage of living space in the primary home, or 720 or 750 square feet, whichever is
Less.
smaller.
That's attached.
Attached.
Yeah, that's the only ADUs we have so far. So that's, yeah, that's how those are allowed.
I mean,
So basically half the size.
I'm of the opinion, why do we care?
Why, I'm of the opinion as well. Why do we care? If they have enough room and they meet all the other lot coverage stuff,
So they could build one bigger.
Sure.
why
This
not?
wouldn't be
Yeah.
subordinate
On
anymore.
the other side.
Well, then that-
minimum.
Well, it'd be subordinate in the sense of the utilities and stuff. like
Really?
that.
20.
Would it? But would it? I'm just going back to the intent. Do we need to change the intent of the law if we don't care how big it is?
Maybe at least it doesn't,
Word subordinate.
it doesn't go beyond the size of the primary home. Keep it subordinate.
I mean, the
1
word
square foot
subordinate would
less.
mean that that's accessory dwelling unit would need to be
Less.
what, less in rank or position.
Let's come back to the subordinate issue. Let's deal first with, do we care what size the accessory dwelling?
I particularly do not. I have no care.
I'm of the same opinion.
I don't agree.
You want it to be smaller,
Yes. But not less than 720 square feet.
but not less than 720.
Well, that's a,
Right, right. That's what our minimums are now. So it's gotta be greater than 720.
Yep.
But less than the main structure.
I can, I mean, I don't really, I'm not gonna die on that. in
Me either.
way, Yeah.
Well, I think that's the only way you maintain it as the subordinate structure.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I don't care either.
Buy with the lot size.
well, then you got it, but then you're getting away from
Let's
the
have a
accessory
conversation.
structure.
Good girls, please. Go ahead. Tom, you were asking a question.
No, I, do we care about the size if they've complied with the lot size?
yes,
Terry says yes.
my opinion.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, yeah, I mean, we're not really limiting it. It just has to be subordinate. It has to be of a lesser size.
Chuck, any thoughts?
I say same,
What, it should be smaller than?
no, same size.
Could be the same.
Could be the same size, yeah. I'm sorry, I was reading.
That's okay.
Or less.
John, any thoughts?
I think same thing. I mean, it probably should not exceed the main structure, because then
Oh, no.
again, it's no longer really the accessory, then that becomes potentially the main structure.
Yeah.
Other than location of where it is behind the residence.
So what if I wanna build a house, I have enough land. And I wanna build a house bigger than my house is there, and I'm gonna move there and make that other one the accessory dwelling unit.
Can't, because now you're going against the D, which is it's gotta be wherever its location, not in front of the
Yeah,
house,
so-
not in front of the main residence.
No, I build it behind. I'm gonna build a bigger house behind the house that's currently there, and I'm gonna move to that and make this the accessory dwelling unit.
But you wouldn't have been allowed to build it in the first place because there's already a structure on there and we would say that it can't be bigger than that.
But I'm gonna make this the accessory dwelling unit, so you tell me I can't do
It
that.
can't be the accessory dwelling, unit because
There's
it's in
already
front,
one
it's
there.
now, it's in front of the main residence. If you're making the,
Oh, I
what
see
you
what you're
build, the
saying.
main residence, it
I see
can't be
what
the
you're saying.
accessory, because now it's in
Yeah.
front of it.
So you subdivide.
So what if I approve to build in front?
And then they'd have to subdivide.
Yeah,
That's a solution.
yeah, that is a solution, just a subdivide.
Do we
Right.
care about a percentage or should we just say that the ADU has to be smaller than the main structure?
I'd say 60%. I mean, if one of the things you're trying to do is to keep these from someone just building them and create STRs. Don't give them the flexibility of making it too big. Because then it becomes a different issue.
Different
I would,
uses.
yeah. This is accessory dwelling unit. If this is supposed to be for grandma doesn't need 3,000 square feet in order to own a building. Especially the one I live with, she can't.
Maybe grandma's a hoarder though, she needs a little extra space.
Well, there is that too.
That's
We're
fire
gonna have bigger
safety.
issue.
Yeah, lots of room for cats.
Yeah,
Okay.
How do we feel?
I would put a number like 2/3 or something like that. Just to try and keep this focus on accessory.
The
dwelling,
intent.
not brand new house that's the same size, because if that's the case, you got the land, subdivide it and
Right.
build a bigger house over there. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
why would you do that?
so you're saying for whatever that is, size A, the first blank, 60%?
Well, that's the number I threw.
Or do you just want to leave it the way we already have it for an attached? I
50%.
think it's 50% or 750 square feet, whichever is smaller.
You can always ask for variance.
You just wanna leave it at 750.
That's a good point. Yeah, everybody's always got an
Just leave it a percentage.
opportunity to get a variance.
So I heard 60% on the table. Want to leave it there?
With a minimum?
Yeah. You gotta have
No, no.
a minimum.
The minimum is 750.
Well, we don't have a minimum for accessory apartments. We only have a maximum
I'm
for
saying
attached.
I'm saying houses in Canandaigua have to be at least 50 or 20? 720 right
I
now.
think it was 720
So
based on.
saying that the accessory dwelling unit must be 720
Detached.
Minimum of 720 and the
Detached.
maximum,
of 60.
60%.
or stay consistent with the attached, which is 50%.
Let's do that.
What if you do the 60%? And the calculations when my office goes through it, means that the ADU is gonna have to be smaller than 720 square feet, and we're talking detached, so it's a single family home. I would tell them, I'm sorry, you can't build this.
No, I think you gotta be a minimum of 720.
Okay.
I agree with
So
that,
some
yeah.
people automatically will not, so anyone who has less than 40 square foot home will never be able to build an ADU, a detached ADU in
I
the town.
would say they could build a detached ADU, but it's gotta be 720.
Yes, but if you
But
do
if that goes over
50%,
50%,
I'm just saying, I'm trying to be difficult, because I just wanna make sure. Because this is gonna come up. You know, we're doing it based on math, that's it, math and what zoning allows, so I just wanna make sure we're not creating.
But the
Contradiction.
1,400 square foot home could apply for variance to build that.
They could, but remember, you don't wanna write code to it.
No, I'm not.
Right.
This is an extreme, how many 1,400 square foot homes are out there that want to build an
And do you
ADU?
really care if they wanna build an ADU that's smaller?
But you're
I
saying.
care about it less than 720.
So you don't want them
You're
to.
saying a minimum of 720. 60% doesn't come into play in that.
We were talking about, okay, but there will be a time when, if you pick a percent. It
That's
means
gonna be
that
more.
their detached
Right.
ADU has to be smaller than 720 in order to meet that minimum percent. I just want to know if that's your intent. They would,
The maximum is 60%, the minimum 720.
Right.
yeah.
but what
They
she's
can
saying
build
is
720.
sometimes, so if
If
you
they
have,
got 1,000 square foot house, they can still build a 720.
but no, that's more than, that's more than the
60%.
maximum.
But it sounded to me like the
60%.
language is either or.
720 square feet is more than 50% of the square footage of 1,000.
Saying either or.
Right.
No, but that
Both don't come into play at the same time.
Well,
One of
that's
them
how
is
they
in
do.
play.
Well,
50%,
You could say a maximum of 60%
whichever is.
with a minimum of 720.
720, right.
Yes.
But what if that house is
Exactly, that's
1,000
what
square
I'm
feet?
saying.
Then they could still build a 720.
Well, they-
But that language doesn't. That language says you can't.
Correct, that's,
You have to
you
say,
guys aren't getting what Mike and I are saying.
No, you're not-
Language is.
Say it again, say it
You
again.
have to say-
I don't,
I can put it this way, you'd have to then say that if you're 50%, or if the maximum 50% is
Less than
Is
seven.
less than-
720, then you're able to at least build the minimum.
You must build the minimum.
Okay, so what about this? You're allowed 60% or 720 square feet, whichever is greater.
that's what I thought we were saying. That's what I thought we were saying all along.
Whichever is
Yeah.
greater.
Yes.
Trying to think of a reason why it wouldn't, that's what we need to make sure.
Would that cover?
Yeah, 60%
Or 720 square
And-
feet, whichever is greater.
or 720, whichever is greater.
And it's still subordinate
It's
to
a-
the original structure because it's gonna have to be smaller.
And then, yes, if you have that, then you've created this little pocket where it can exist.
Yes,
Where what?
but only up to 720 square
Yes.
feet, which is gonna be tough. For an architect.
So we get the intent, you just gotta figure out the right language to account for.
Mike's got it, 60% or
Yeah.
720, whichever is greater.
That's what.
Or some-
Sounds familiar.
So we need to reverse the way it's already written.
I think we'll wordsmith it a little bit.
But then you're,
You're limited to just 700. That's why I like,
yeah.
we're gonna have to wordsmith it a little bit.
Yeah, you just have to give an exception of if your square footage of your home doesn't allow for the maximum of percentage, then 720 is the maximum.
I would say,
Yeah.
I would go higher than 720. So that you
Yeah,
would get a little bit of wiggle room, like 800.
Don't get into an argument with that 720 that we've already put in.
Yes.
You can say, well, wait a minute, you're.
Yeah, I think you gotta,
Well, you can't say whichever is greater and make it be more than 720 square.
yeah, we'll figure out the language. We get the intent now, we
That's
just gotta
we
figure out
have
the
it.
language.
I think
Our
we have to
minimum
keep it
is
at
already
720, right?
So as long as we know that you guys are good with, if 1,000 square foot house wants to do an accessory dwelling, we're not binding them by the 50% maximum because they can still, at the very least, do a 720 minimum.
Correct, that's what I hear, right?
Build around.
I know,
So-
but that's what I was saying,
720 minimum.
the way it's
Small,
written,
but
it's just
principal
not
dwelling.
gonna be easy to enforce it.
Because potentially, a 720 home could then go up to 100% of their side if they build another 720 cellar or accessory, so that's, so yeah, we'll just gotta.
Yep.
Word craft it, so.
How about B, 4B? That shouldn't be in here, should it?
This is for attached ADUs.
Right.
This whole section was drafted to replace the accessory apartments and make it all underneath one document.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, why do we change the nomenclature to apartments instead of accessory dwelling? It seems to.
No, it's changed to dwelling,
It's changed to.
dwelling units instead of apartment.
Well, I mean, the rest of the
But in this one,
starts referencing accessory apartments.
I went through and, did you
I thought
add
I
that
got-
after, you might have added that after I
got
changed
one.
it.
I'm sorry.
Saying that's just something.
It's all supposed to say accessory dwelling units,
Dwelling
my
units.
apologies.
Attached, detached.
That was a, yeah,
Okay, so
sorry.
4B,
That's right.
how do we want to modify that language?
So right now, it's 50% or 750 square feet. We do have two different 700 in our town code. This one is,
The 750 predates the 7.
yeah. So
So are we
Mike's
gonna
put
amend
in
the
a blank.
750 to be 720 eventually?
So, because again, now we're talking about individual apartment within a building, it would not have to comply with the 720.
Okay,
720 is talking about a single
Standalone.
family dwelling unit stand.
Separate dwelling.
This could be 200 square feet, it could be
right,
50 square feet.
Yeah,
it's attached.
we don't currently have a minimum for
Right,
the
for
attached.
Right, I agree.
Do we care how much space the attached accessory dwelling unit is?
Yes,
Yes?
yes, because the way that this draft is written is that those lot requirements that you guys came up with
Yeah.
are for your detached. This would be allowed by right on any lot that is conforming to the code to be attached.
I don't understand why we would care. If it's the principal structure, what do we care how they use the interior of the building?
Well, there's a difference between a single family home with an attached accessory apartment and a single family. Or I'm sorry, and a two-family dwelling. Or are you saying we should eliminate that? Because our zoning districts are different as far as where those are allowed.
I'm asking the question for a principal structure. Why do we care how much of it they use for their grandma and how much they don't use for the grand? What do we care?
I don't care. I don't care.
It's based, right now, it seems like it's based on definition. So it'd have to be a change in the definition of a multi-family dwelling.
There's also the appearance, the outward appearance. A
Yes.
two-family unit's gonna have, you know, two front doors or two, and it can look like two units on the outside. Right now, a single-family home with an accessory apartment is not allowed to do that. It has to look like one, but it can have a fully separate unit inside of it. But it has to be smaller.
So.
And I
it's-
like that description for an attached accessory dwelling unit in any of the districts. That I would not like to see two front doors.
Which is built into this.
Right.
We have it written so that
Right.
access shall not be on the front.
So then that would have to make it stay.
So B right
same.
now would be 50% or 720 square feet. That's how it's written in our code today.
That's what it says today.
Today, yes.
But
So you guys need to decide if you want it to stay that way.
why
or
not just say why not say 50% and just leave it blank without a minimum? Or a maximum?
There is no minimum.
Yeah, without it, so no maximum.
No maximum, no minimum,
But
just.
then I guess how do you
50%.
differentiate between then what is a,
Well, you have to pick whether the 50% is a minimum or a maximum.
Do we care whether, but you're asking is. Do we care which is the primary, which is the accessory, as long as one's bigger or smaller than the other?
That's my point. I mean,
Yeah.
why
A lot of-
even put this in there? What do we care?
well, again, I think it's just then. It changes the definition, so then it's no longer. An accessory, an attached accessory dwelling, it's the
It would be-
two-family home, which then goes to those requirements, or then that allows the two different.
Yeah.
Doors and all that, so it depends on,
So if you wanted to build more than what you said is your maximums, it would then be considered a two-family dwelling. Which is more restricted.
If it's all the very same building, if it's one building. I mean, what goes on within that building, to John's point, who cares? But
Is this kind of like what Vegas stays in Vegas?
Yeah.
Well,
But-
like Mike's point, we do have homes that have 2 kitchens and, 4 bathrooms. We don't consider those to be separate dwelling units unless they're actually separated physically with 2 separate entrances and no common areas shared. So, I need, from our perspective, I always try to think ahead, and I can't because I don't ever predict everything, but what are we gonna do when someone comes in with an application? I need to know how to funnel it, which
So like,
pigeonhole to put
I
it
think the
in.
perfect example for you is Pierce Brook, right? Your two-family townhome units. Is that an accessory apartment? Do you want that to be considered an accessory apartment without setting minimum or maximums? That could be considered an ADU,
But that wouldn't make sense.
but that's what is
So we
being
need to-
proposed.
That's why they're different.
So if you have a maximum, say, right now, like it's 750 square feet. You can't have that, then it would be truly black and white, no, that's a two-family dwelling. That's a two-family.
in the case of, taking care of grandpa, let's switch. to
Grandpa
In that
dies
home,
first.
in order to have that accessory dwelling unit within the same building.
Yep.
There'd have to be 2 kitchens, 2.
Yeah.
Okay, but if I'm gonna take care of grandpa in that house, I don't need 2 kitchens, he might need a separate quarters. Bedroom, bathroom like that.
Mhm.
But it would seem to me, in most cases, if it's taking care of a family member within a building,
Same kitchen.
you're gonna have common areas that are,
But that's just
well, I
a,
mean, they're not.
that's just a
it's
single family
really-
home.
I mean, it's fuzzy how you, yeah, I know, it's,
And we don't really care. I mean, if they want
I
to do
would think
that,
most cases, like, I had
they're already allowed to do that.
we put an addition on our house. My daughter has, she was the whole thing, but anyway, she's at one side. My wife and I are on the other, but it's all one building, I mean, it's all, there's only one kitchen.
So that's
but some
not an
people don't
accessory.
want that. Yeah, no, but
It's just one big house.
But.
Some people don't want
Separating.
that. A lot of people actually
Well, yeah.
say they don't want that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to have a long-term rental, another family would,
Because you
right.
have,
but if it had
You-
been
a separate-
constructed as a separate full dwelling unit,
Self-contained
it
unit.
then could be rented out. It's the difference between a really big house and a house with a little apartment or a little house inside of it. Like, they're separate. Like, an accessory dwelling unit has to have all the requirements of a dwelling unit separate. They can't share a living room
Self-contained.
or a kitchen,
I
you know,
guess I
or
come
they
down.
really
on-
can't share a front door. You know, they have to have, it's gotta still be separate
with
in
this
order to meet the
building.
definition. Not that I'm saying I care, I'm just saying we live in definitions and code. We have to, so I have to figure out how am I supposed to take in an application? I just need to know what to do with it.
I guess if it's within the building, principal dwelling. Whatever, split it 50-50, 90-10. Doesn't really make any
But that's
difference
the
to
thing,
me.
you can't. I'm telling you, you can't. I could not govern that. You give me that, I will have Pierce Brooks popping up all over. 2 buildings. Altogether, it's 3,000 square feet. You will have. And then at that point, we'll throw out 2-family homes for our zoning districts.
But-
Right, they'd be allowed
but how's
everywhere.
that any different than if I go and put 50% in?
Because you're limiting the size, okay? So you are by 50%
Yeah.
saying that that is a smaller structure,
It's an accessory.
okay? It's accessory, it's subordinate to that primary structure. If you don't put that in there, you will have 2 completely independent dwelling units at 1,400 square feet apiece, right on the lake shore, just to get around the inability or unpermitted 2-family dwellings.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're advocating for us to put a percentage in.
Yes.
It's 50% work, that's what we have now.
Yes. 50% works.
Just leaving it alone.
So,
50 and 720 then, right? 50% and 720,
No,
not 7.
750.
That's what it is now.
I thought you said.
750
Or
is the
750,
maximum
sorry,
square
yeah.
footage.
Why not just put 50%
I would just leave it at 50%.
and not put a maximum or minimum?
Yep,
What?
that still keeps us subordinate.
Well, that is a maximum. That's 50%.
50% is
Yes,
that.
yeah. But setting a direct number.
It'll take away the.
Take away the 750.
So we're taking away the or,
Yep.
or,
It would just say
Well,
it's
that's
located
why.
in the same building as, or, yes, it's located in the same building as the principal dwelling. 50% of the total floor area, yada, yada, yada.
So, okay. we're
So
crossing
no
out
square feet,
After or, we're crossing them.
right?
well, we could say 50% or less, right?
Yeah.
You gotta put that in there, I think. Okay,
Real quickly, could you, what's the issue with? Pierceville? They're buying 2,
Nothing, what I was
They-
using it as an example was like in the RLD, you're not allowed to build a 2-family dwelling, 2-family home. But by this, you will be allowed a single family home with an attached ADU. Well, if you don't put a maximum, you're gonna build a something the size of Pierce Brook.
okay.
There is one in the RLD though. It was built by a previous supervisor of this town.
I plead the fifth.
Who shall go unnamed.
any other comments? I have one for number 9,
Oh, wait.
but if they, that's what I'm asking, does anybody have anything before number 9?
Well, occupancy is shaded. Do we care?
That was a discussion between Sarah and I. The reason why we have it as the occupant of the primary structure at time of application is so that we have someone to actually sign off on it. It's legally allowed.
Okay. Sounds
And
good.
it also makes sure that it is actually a person living there. That
Yeah.
owns it,
Yeah, I
as
think
opposed
that's,
to a corporation, the back way of
But-
getting around there.
Yeah,
right,
But my comment was that this says that. That would only, so 5 only would apply the way it's written to attached. Because
That's one where I forgot about the accessory apartment as opposed to.
the principal dwelling, I'll read it the way I think we meant to, the principal dwelling unit in which.
An accessory dwelling unit is located.
Well, if it says in, that means we're talking about attached only. So are we talking about detached and attached in item number 5 or just?
It's both.
I would say both.
Well, then you can't say the principal
I would
dwelling
just say
unit in
where.
which.
Say the
Yeah.
principal dwelling unit where an accessory dwelling unit is located.
Anyway, the way it's written suggests that the owner must live in the principal dwelling unit. Do we care which one they live in? Can we even enforce that? Is my question.
I think we'd
We
like
can
to
enforce
try
that time of
to.
application.
We can, yeah, right.
What
We
I
can
think this
enforce
gets
it at the
into
time,
is
but
that
not
if there
really after.
becomes an issue later on, something.
We don't care if, I mean, I don't care if they flip flop,
One or the other.
right, as long as there's somebody that is
But in time of
responsible
application.
properly, right? We do at the time, no.
That's the
Yeah,
big-
yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but if they flip flop downstream, as long as someone who owns that property is on that property and it's not both.
Right.
Okay, then I'll figure out how to write that.
You gotta be reworded.
So you just wanna write, because
Must,
if like something,
one of the dwelling units.
but if there's something not enforceable. Then. Probably shouldn't be there.
Well,
So
if
do
you
you-
put in the
did you say
occupancy, that the owner of record must occupy one of the dwelling units.
That's how I was gonna write it.
Okay, somebody brought up this corporate ownership or trust ownership or whatever. How do we handle that?
They have to provide us,
Oh, you mean an application?
yeah,
I require them to provide me some sort of official document that states the name of the person who's claiming to be the owner. I need to know what their relationship is with that LLC or that
Person being,
incorporation.
okay, some kind of program.
Right, because usually it's some applicant, someone saying, my name's Bill Smith and I own this property, but it's owned by 123 LLC. I say, provide me with documentation showing what your relationship is with what,
Okay,
123
you-
LLC. Usually they give me a deed with their name signed and notarized or something, whatever they got at closing when they created their LLC. I just need to know that Bill Smith really does own that LLC or has permission to act on behalf of it. So that's usually what we require for the application. So I know that it's not some random person claiming to be the owner. So we have ways of dealing with that, but
So this will be reworded to say one of the dwelling units.
one or
must be
more owners of
occupied.
yeah.
record must, yeah.
John, you have questions on 9?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're trying to say here.
Me neither. I sent it off to Michelle for comment, and basically, what I was trying to show was, okay, how do we handle water district charges, sewer district charges? And then all the other special tax situations, star and anything else, how does that impact now that there's 2 dwellings
It would just
on
impact,
property?
it would be based on the entire assessment of the
Yeah.
property.
And that was where I left that section, it's green if you have a colored copy, to basically say, Michelle, please look at this and put in whatever you want to make sure it's clear.
Mhm.
Yeah, my note is.
Do you need to have anything in there though? Because that's really, it does, I think the assessor job is gonna be separate from this. She's making determinations based on the total value
So the
of the
one
property.
thing was when I went to other municipalities, with like sewer districts and everything else, even though you have 1 hookup, you have 2 houses utilizing it. Some towns say, okay, we're gonna charge a double, some say, well, we're gonna charge a single. And that was where I was like, Michelle handles that type of stuff, I'm gonna hand it off to her and she was gonna work with me.
I don't have sewer, so how do you charge for sewer now?
County,
What?
county
So,
charges for
so
sewer.
how do they determine what your sewer bill is? Isn't it based on your water bill? Or is it based on your water?
No,
bill?
it's quarterly.
Flat.
Isn't it just
It's a flat fee?
quarterly? Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, I mean,
I think, pretty sure it is.
And that was where that
Is
came
there a
in.
balance?
Yeah, I mean, if-
They measure
I
how
mean-
much stuff is going in.
If indeed,
I don't know.
if indeed
That's why I
it's a
just-
flat fee, then I think you have to make some kind of adjustment.
And that's why I just kind of left that as like, Michelle, please put in. whatever."
Sewer might actually be
I know for me, my sewer was a flat rate
it might be a
Mine's a
flat
flat
rate.
rate too.
per quarter.
Yeah,
Per quarter.
like $96 or something, I think, now that I think of it.
Just
It doesn't matter whether you've got 5 bedrooms or 1 bedroom.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Flat fee.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, where you're creating a second dwelling unit, I think the fee ought to be double.
I agree.
If I were collecting,
And I don't
sure, the
know if you're-
municipality should, or
I don't know if you're able to do that. That's why I was leaving this section entirely up to.
So
Okay,
that,
so
so that
let's
we
leave
gotta
it-
touch base with Michelle.
Let's leave it that we're looking for feedback from Michelle,
Yep.
right?
As far as water goes, I mean, that would be.
Yeah,
You
a
just
ton
got
of meter.
one meter.
Usually have
Yeah.
1 meter.
Yeah, you only want one, I mean, I'm sure Jim only wants one.
It's
meter.
really sewer. And then like your lighting districts and stormwater, I don't know how that works.
The fire is just based on gross value. of
Right,
Yeah,
Property.
but your lighting,
Yeah, yeah.
well, I don't know how that is operated, so.
Okay,
Okay.
we're almost through. I think we ought to just push on and get through this so we can come up with some new language at our next meeting.
And I gotta get them back to working up here. It's costing us money.
It looks like D2 is the next big one.
D2,
D2.
That is Nadler advice. I have not sent that off to him. I kind of was hoping that we would have this whole thing drafted up before I started incurring legal fees.
Sounds like a good rule.
No,
So at least we've got track
yeah,
them,
I'm comfortable with that.
and Michelle. will-
This is allowing those that weren't permitted in a legal pathway to become permitted.
Amnesty.
Yeah.
But if you don't
But
meet
if
the
they don't meet
requirements,
the
you're
requirements,
SOL.
They gotta tear it down.
Well, then, they, wait, they're not SOL, they have the opportunity to go to zoning. don't they?
Sure, yeah,
Well, if they're out of compliance, they probably wouldn't even send this in anyway,
100%,
so.
but this at least gives them that opportunity.
Yeah, and it may be an enforcement.
The only one that I also wanted to touch on was 13. It's above D, if you guys saw that. Recorded restrictions. Basically, this just means that to again alleviate the issues of selling the property after, that prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy, the property owner or owners shall deliver to the town building inspector an agreement in form and substance acceptable to the town, recording that this is an accessory dwelling unit and not a standalone full single-family structure.
Sounds good.
So that now when they do sell it and they do plan to subdivide it, to John's point, this is recorded in the deed. That no, was constructed underneath these guidelines as an accessory dwelling unit.
You know, this goes back to the question I asked up front. Do we care if it's a short-term rental?
I do, but there's no way to legislate against it.
How do you legislate against
Yeah, it doesn't, so we just have to accept that this is potentially gonna happen.
It's gonna happen after 10 years down the road.
Right.
Or
Some,
But
eventually something
ideally, they're
different
gonna get a permit for it,
You have to get a short-term rental permit, right?
maybe,
item
at some
12,
point.
Let's stay on 13 for a second.
And,
So
and if the
13
state is keeping track of them, it'll be a way.
The reason why I put 13 in there was because I can see someone in 12 years, because it happens to us daily.
Yeah.
Well, but I built this, I have this. Okay, but why was it built that way? We don't have a lot of the tracking means.
Yeah.
This way it's recorded at the county level. Should you buy that home, it should follow it. They come in and they're like, well, I want 2 water services, I want 2 meters. No, this was constructed underneath these guidelines, you can't have that unless you get a variance. That's really what I was trying to avoid. This is something that I took from Uniform Document Memorial Law, where we require this for dock consolidations for that reason. Now, 10 years from now, you get someone that has a 1,000 square foot dock, they come in and they say, well, yeah, I want to build a second dock. Well, you're not allowed to, because you filed that consolidation in your deed. This is similar to that. You're not allowed that second utility service. You're not allowed to do X, Y, Z.
I mean, I don't think 13 is prohibitive in any way. It's just a tracking mechanism, right?
Yep, correct. Yeah,
So I am not object to it. I mean,
that's more of, again, think of 20, 30 years down the road, someone comes in with a question.
yeah,
Well, at least we can, whoever's, hopefully I'm still here.
Yeah.
Can track it to why that structure was there.
sure. That's fine. Sarah, did you have something else to say?
where did 12 come from and do we care?
12 took out the special use permitted. Specially permitted uses, yeah, that's it. So like bed and breakfast, they're already specially permitted.
They're tourist homes, by the way. So I changed that,
Alright,
but
I copy and paste that from Geneva.
I know.
Well, let's,
Devil's advocate, if someone runs any major home occupation out of their house, like. What's some examples we've had, like
Chalet.
the lady who grooms dogs, she can't build an ADU
Why not?
because number 12 says she can't.
Too much going on.
And if you got a special use permit from the town to rent your one room out of your basement as a tourist home, because our short-term rental law doesn't deal with those, you can't have an ADU either.
So is the purpose of that section just to simply make it so like a bed and breakfast can't expand beyond the inside of their home?
So my thing was is that the special use permits for those uses were issued underneath set structure, set plans. Then if they wanted to build an ADU that's attached, yes, it would cause, this would cause them to go back. But basically what I was trying to solve. To have that special use permit.
So if they wanted to do that, then they would have to just go through that process.
I'd have to wordsmith it to make it that way. Now I see what Sarah's saying.
Yeah,
It's-
I mean, it's just flat out prohibiting it
Or they'd have to
Yeah.
get a variance.
Right.
from this section.
I'm okay with them.
This was to really inhibit the building of additions for those. So it makes sense.
Let's break here. And if you could modify this language kind of conceptually based on what we've talked about here today. And then we'll take another shot at it next time. But I think we all are in agreement as to the intent of it should be. So,
Yeah, just to clarify then real quick on that 12 though, so we're good with not completely prohibiting, but obviously letting them decide if they want to go back through the process to
Yeah.
add
Yeah,
on.
it's a trigger to follow up.
next meeting is April 7th.
I think we need to go back into the, what's it called? The one we put at the. town board
Manufactured
meeting last week,
homes,
that we, table, the, what was, I can't remember what.
manufactured homes. and-
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, what did we do with it? What was the status of that?
Well, we just-
Refresh my
Do
memory.
anything with it.
It just got laid over. It's gotta be addressed,
Specific
it's
date.
gotta be addressed at the board meeting, because it's laid over to the next board meeting, and there's an open public hearing for it still.
I think we need to get back into that with this discussion of I sent you guys the thing that came from Nadler, you know. It seems to me there ought to be a way to distinguish between manufactured mobile homes and manufactured modular homes. One, we don't want spread all over the town, the other, we don't really care.
Right.
Well, if we wrote it that way.
In that
there could be a way
document,
to-
in that
You
document,
already
Sherry,
have-
I
Manufactured homes all over.
in that document that you sent out, I saw that mobile homes, however you want to call them, are built on a frame
Chassis.
chassis, so that why can't we differentiate them that way?
We might build-
Well, 'cause you-
Before we get into a big conversation about this. At one point, we had future topics that were attached to the agenda. I would like to, at our next meeting, we don't have time today, but I'd like to just have a conversation, brief about each one and say whether it should continue to be a future topic or not. And we'll add manufactured homes to that list and put it back in a conversation, get it back on our agenda. But I think for the next meeting, we ought to get ADUs finished. We ought to get form-based code finished. And then if we have time, we'll talk about manufactured homes.
Do we need to make a determination
gotta
on
do
manufactured homes before?
No, you can leave the public hearing open again, and you can continue to
So
postpone
we're good with this then.
the resolution. So
Follow what John just.
Yeah. We're good with doing.
it
what
probably
John
should
said.
be discussed further in ordinance for going back.
Yeah.
I do also think though that I think this was discussed in ordinance and it was discussed in plan board and so it then went to the town board. And so I think it's okay if the town board says, let's send it back to committees to work on this further. So I think that would just have to be addressed in the board meeting. You can, again,
Next meeting.
leave the public hearing open, or I guess you can close it and say it's gonna be closed and then reopened again, but right.
It was short-term rental.
Set another
It's not
public
here
hearing.
yet, but it went back,
Yeah,
it was in the, it was at the town
Yeah.
board and then it went back to ordinance.
So,
Well, Mike, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I don't know what Nadler sent out, but we already do differently
Differentiate.
differentiate, thank you, between modular and manufactured. I don't know what he sent out. Well, I'm the only one that can interpret the code in that sense, but manufactured and modular are two completely separate
Yes,
and they're different.
and I'll just make,
Can you give us that language prior to our next meeting so we can?
and I think it addresses it in that document that you sent
That
out.
Terry sent out,
I'll
yeah.
send you that.
It's, yeah.
I think that's a great starting
Pretty
point.
comfortable.
You take those two documents and
What was the initial trigger on manufactured homes? The modular homes up on,
The size.
So we have had a lot of requests for people to build single wide manufactured homes outside of manufactured homes.
single.
And we already
It's
allow
also-
double wides. They just, it's the size. They wanted to be able to put a single wide.
And it's also against the law to exclude that from certain residential districts. You can't, it's gotta be across the board. And the criteria report has to be across the board as well. So if you are saying this can only be here for this reason, then it has to also be across the board for all single family homes in that district.
John, just one quick note if I can.
please.
Friday, my team sat in on the code council update from New York State. It is the final, what we hope to be final draft of all the new uniform codes. To our dismay, but I'm sure a lot of builders and future homeowners' pleasure, sprinklers are now gonna no longer be required in single family and two family homes. I see John laughing, I see Dave, I hate it, so do both of your fire chiefs, just so you know. Well, one, I haven't heard back from the other one, so I'll speak for him. Natural gas, we're not sure.
You hated the fact that we were gonna require sprinklers in homes?
No, I want it.
You want sprinklers?
What would that add to the cost of a home? That's
$2.50
my
a
concern.
square foot.
$3.50.
$2.
$2.
I just designed.
So that's
how it's
that's the affordable home that I mean, that's one more thing we can cut costs on if we cut away with that.
I agree, but New York State's telling you that you need to have solar panels on your roofs, but you don't need sprinklers.
Yeah.
So there's a bigger cost that's
I
about,
disagree with both. Right.
and if you say you don't need sprinklers, come with me to the burn center.
Oh, no, I'm
We'll
with
come to
you.
the county and I'll put you in a room. But yeah, so I'll have a full write-up. I read through one book, which bear with me is 1,400 pages. This weekend, I still have 5 other books to read through. The big one is obviously the natural gas ban. I don't know how that's gonna work. The executive law still hasn't been repealed, but the code is weird. So,
I was reading a thing, the incentives that New York State granted Micron to build this big
Oh,
fast
she's the.
over near Syracuse. One of them was a 3-mile extension to a very large, high-pressure natural gas line to the facility. That was stamped by Kathy Hochul.
Well, Terry, if you think this has anything to do with the environment, you got.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the.
John, are you gonna be
environment.
at the finance committee meeting
It has to
on
do with
Thursday?
special interests. and
Are you at the
makes
finance
money.
committee on Thursday at 9 o'clock?
Well,
Jared just asked for an executive session after that, so
yeah,
I don't know, it's about some kind of
yeah,
acquisition
so you
of
do a storage tank.
property or something.
With a pump.
Kevin Mulvaney's gonna be there. Peter, are you gonna be there?
Yeah.
There's only 4 of us.
That's
Okay.
heavy.
Oh, good, good,
That's
good.
heavy.
Yes, I'll,
Is it?
Yeah, it's in the highway. It's in highway.
Gallons per gallon, 5 times 8 is 40, so about 4.
And we're gonna have an executive session after that?
After that, he said, yeah.
Okay.
I guess it's
Yeah,
kinda like
sure,
my
finance
garage.
meeting, anyways.
It's yours.
that's 3 weeks between.
No votes
It's a
yet.
motion to adjourn.
Next meeting.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor? We're
Aye.
on here. Thank you, everyone.
John, Jared, you?
He hasn't been yet. I'm not sure. He said he had a bunch of stuff to do.